Christ is risen.
Truly he is risen.
Over the course of these days following Great and Holy Pascha, the Church has lifted up many hymns in praise and celebration of the gift of life that has dawned from the tomb. One of these beautiful hymns, chanted as part of the Anastasi Eni, the Resurrection Lauds, states the following as it brings to mind the myrrh-bearing women arising early in the morning to go to the tomb. Again, thinking beyond what reason of this world would have us to believe. Acting because they were going in faith to be able to do what was required of them to anoint the body of Christ. They thought nothing about the obstacles which may have stood in their way. They simply arose, prepared themselves, and went. The hymn itself begins in Greek, Emirophodi Inekes Orthou Vatheos, attending the life-giver's tomb at daybreak. The myrrh-bearing women found an angel seated on the rock, and he spoke to them, saying, "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" Here you have the women going in earnest to anoint the body of Christ, worried about the stone, worried about the guards, worried about the seal. And yet, they find all of these obstacles removed. And as they approach the tomb, they run into an angel dressed in white who asks them, "Why do you seek the living among the dead? Why do you mourn the incorruptible one amidst corruption?" We take our human thoughts and we place them aside. The angel is calling our attention to see what we are yet unable to recognize, to look beyond what our eyes are telling us and what our minds are telling us is possible. Why do we seek and mourn the incorruptible one amidst corruption? Here they are in the midst of a graveyard. They go to a tomb to be able to anoint a body which they think will be subject to the same decay as our earthly bodies are. And yet, there they find simply an angel who tells them that he has risen as he foretold. Everything that we think we understand, God has taken and now opened our eyes, opened our spiritual eyes to be able to only begin to comprehend that which is truly incomprehensible. We experience God's resurrection in its fullness and in its truth. And yet, we have no words to be able to explain the joy and the freedom that we feel from the inner depths of our soul. No similar than the example of today's gospel lesson of the healing of the man born blind. No matter how many times he was asked, the answer was the same. A man spit on the ground. He placed the spittle in the dirt, the clay on my eyes, and told me to go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went, and now I see. How did this occur? I don't know. Who has ever heard of a man being born blind who now has received his sight? The question was asked over and over again today in the Gospel pericope. Each time the answer was the same. To God we give the glory. Look beyond what we can see. God himself is opening our eyes to be able to glimpse and experience heaven even here on earth. He is calling us to celebrate and dance with him, to live within this new joy. A hymn which we again have heard since Pascha morning that was chanted 5 times today during the Matin service. Fotizo, fotizo i Nea Jerusalem. Shine, O shine, the new Jerusalem. For the glory of the Lord has dawned over you. Dance now and be glad, Zion, as for you, pure one, referring to the Theotokos, rejoice in the resurrection of your child. The words themselves lift up our hearts to a height that we recognize that nothing that we once knew is the same, that everything has been made anew in the resurrection of Christ. That all has now changed, that we are called to arise and to celebrate and dance for joy as ones truly free from death and corruption. The Ipakui read today says the minds of the myrrh bearers blurred at the sight of the angels. Their souls became illumined by the divine resurrection. They delivered then the glad tidings to the apostles, saying, proclaim to all nations the resurrection of the Lord, who with you works wonders and grants to us all great mercy. When the man born blind was cast out from the temple by the Jews, Christ went and found him, and he spoke to him thus, and he said, do you believe in the Son of God? And he asked, who is he, Lord? It is I who speaks to you. And he said, yes, Lord, I believe. And he fell down and worshiped him. God seeks us out, and through Christ asks us the same question. Do you believe in the Son of God? And we too, with resounding voices, because the eyes of our souls have also been opened up to recognize his glory, to see his goodness, to understand the freedom that has now come upon us, even if we lack the words to express thanks. We utter in true faith, I believe, Lord. And we fall down and we worship him. Amen.